So it cannot just be me who thinks the Adelaide Crows are legitimately cooking in the 2024 AFL off-season. I mean, they are cooking almost as hard as KSI and the producers did when they made his new song, The Thick of It. I'm in the thick of it every day. Again, when I heard that song, I literally just started levitating, and I think Adelaide Crows fans are levitating while watching this trade period unfold. Again, I think you guys know on this channel, I've been pretty public by saying that I think the Adelaide Crows have had one of the worst rebuilds I have seen. I mean, they started this rebuild probably a year or two after 2018 when they obviously missed the 8, but in terms of that, they haven't made the finals since they lost to Richmond in 2017, and they just finished 15th, and we're looking like there were times where there was no hope for this squad whatsoever. But as the season kept going on, finally some things started to be a little bit positive for them again. We saw Riley Thilthorpe actually turn into like the Incredible Hulk or some shit, and just looked like he was more juiced up than what Arnie was back in his prime in the day. You had Rankin turning into like a beast in the midfield, Saligo becoming a really good player. Ben Keys continues to become one of the most underrated players in the league. But again, we just saw that their young core and the bust after bust that they drafted really just haven't been able to work for Adelaide. And it's one of the big reasons they finished 15th, even though they've been rebuilding for years on end and haven't made the 8 since that really bad loss to Richmond in 2017. But in saying all of that, for some reason this off-season, the Adelaide Crows just decided to cook when it was announced that Alex Neil-Bullen, one of the most underrated players in the AFL, requested a trade to their football club, and the only thing they gave up for was pick 28, which has ended up being really funny because pick 28 is what they got back for Shane McAdam. So if you really look at it at the end of the day, it was a straight swap of Alex Neil-Bullen, one of the most underrated players in the game who can play midfield and forward, for Shane McAdam, who has ultimately struggled and hasn't done anything at the Melbourne Football Club at the time of making this video. Not only did they decide to get Alex Neil-Bullen to the team, but they decided to go out and sign a guy by the name of Isaac Cumming, who, again, some people were saying it's just a fringe player for GWS. It's really not true. This guy has been getting better and better every season. I think he's going to take a dramatic step next year. Again, he's had to play back pocket and half back for them. But at this Adelaide Crows team, as we see on this post by AFL Trade Radio, he will be most likely playing on the wing for them next season, with Neil-Bullen obviously playing half forward and a lot of midfield time as well. And we know that they are bringing in James Peatling, who is an insanely good story of a guy who started the year off as a sub and ended up becoming an extremely important player to GWS, where he had one final game where he was tagging. He had only 10 touches but 2 goals, and another game as a tagger where he had 15 touches and a goal, which is a really, really nice game when you think about that this guy was also tagging. He has the ability for them next year to, I think, play a decent amount of midfield time, but obviously go down forward and put on a tag when he's needed to, and I think be an incredibly good role player for them going forward next season. Not only do they add those guys in, but as we know, they will have the 4th overall pick in the 2024 AFL draft, which, thank God for Adelaide fans, I don't think they can mess this one up because it's the most stacked draft in recent time that we have seen. And it looks like anyone on the top 10 you basically take should hopefully be a good player for them. So at pick 4, there's a couple of options. They could obviously look at Sid Draper, who's an Adelaide talent. There's also a player or two, maybe potentially Josh Smiley, who's a really tall inside midfielder, kind of Patrick Cripps-like player who could be available. Again, a guy like Murphy Reid, who is more of an outside midfielder who can be very good on the run, also can go play down forward as well. Again, I don't know who they're going to take. Most likely Sid Draper, who's that really clean inside midfielder who can add speed to their team as well. I think if you're adding, if you're going from last year, which realistically was a fail, but you're going into next year, and not only are you adding in Isaac Cumming, Alex Neil-Bullen, James Peatling, and most likely Sid Draper, but you are adding, I think, Daniel Curtin, who will be twice the player he was last year. I'm assuming he'll play down back. I think you're also adding Riley Thilthorpe, who is looking like he will be a very good player for them, who missed I think he missed the start of the year, and then as he just played every game, he got better and better as the time went on. And you're obviously going to be getting Josh Rashali, who should be a 2 times better player than what he was last year. He had a really bad year last year, filled with some controversy, but I think, hopefully for them, he should be double the player he is. And I think what's really interesting about this Adelaide team is last year, their midfield, in my opinion, was really one dynamic and not that pleasing to watch. It was definitely one of the slower midfields in the game, watching, especially at the start of the year, Jordan Dawson, Rory Laird, and Matt Crouch go and do their thing. It was not only slow, but you didn't have Rory Sloane in there anymore, who has been a club legend for them for years. As the season went on, they tried to add a bit of Rashali in there that didn't really work. They added in Rankin, who ended up being a phenomenal add. And I think Jordan Dawson started to play a little bit more different roles, kind of as like a high half forward at one stage. And you can tell they really tried to add in a ton of speed and flexibility. And I can tell you right now, that really one dynamic midfield is going to be completely changing next year. Not only do you have Rankin in there, who adds a ton of speed, you're going to have Sid Draper in there, who I think from reports is a quick, really good inside clearance midfielder. You're going to be adding Peatling as well, who's going to be a tagger for you when you need him to. Alex Neil-Bullen is also a really clever, crafty forward who goes and literally replicates that in the midfield and does the exact same thing, similar to what Kane Lambert used to do at the Tigers back in the day. And you're going to now have Isaac Cumming on the wing, who, if you want, you can push down back. It's also like, if you're still wanting to have some clearance and some taller inside brutes in there, again, Daniel Curtin should be playing a lot more footy next year. And even though, in my opinion, he is used as a backman in the league, I think he will go in there and hopefully maybe even play some midfield as we speak. So they kind of go from a midfielder who's got like 4 to 5 rotation players at best to a midfield that you could probably rotate in and out like 8 guys every game for them next season. Like, imagine lining up against the Adelaide Crows and the starting bounce is like, Rory Laird, Sid Draper, and Jordan Dawson. And then someone kicks a goal, and then the next bounce, it's like Isaac Rankin, Alex Neil-Bullen, and Daniel Curtin. And it just keeps changing. That's the type of stuff that makes football teams so elite. Like, we've seen Sydney do it with Heaney, Goulden, Warner, Rowbottom, Taylor Adams, etc., etc. They rotate like 5 to 8 guys in there constantly. The Adelaide Crows desperately need to do that next season, and as I've said a ton of times in this video, you can tell that they're going to do that. So I think the Adelaide Crows have legitimately been winners for a team who has drafted abysmal like over the last 7 years. It has hurt them a lot, but now they're finally in a place where a lot of really good role players want to come to their team. They should have hopefully a top 5 pick that they can't stuff up. And finally, one of their draftees in Riley Thilthorpe is really coming along. And you're hoping Rashali and the Rankin, who kind of, again, he fills one of those drafty spots because they traded a top 6 pick or whatever for him. You're hoping these guys really mesh well and come together and ultimately improve next season. So I think the Adelaide Crows have legitimately cooked this off season. It's the first year I can finally give them props because I think they've genuinely done something really well. And I'm excited to see what the future is going to look like for this team. But again, if you haven't already, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Comment all of your thoughts and opinions on this all down below. Do you guys like what the Adelaide Crows have done so far in this 2024 off-season, or do you guys not? I'd very much like to know. Don't forget to subscribe to my gaming channel and my IRL/vlogging channel and this channel for the latest sports content and news. And I guess I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.